Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, it is the last Friday of 2023. Can you truly believe it? Not me. But we got some great stories for you that we want to talk about. Let's talk about what the Kansas governor's doing to decry racism at a Kwanzaa celebration and how she's speaking out against the issue based upon a major case that happened in a school setting. We're going to be checking in with our educational contributors, Ms. Kimberly Morrow and Corinna Denise, to get the latest about this. And what the Department of Education have said in a report that confirms that there is some disparity in educating Black children. We're going to get their take. Also, later on, I'm going to talk about how one University of Wisconsin chancellor got fired. And we're going to ask the question, is it too much if your job interferes in your personal life? I'm going to share the more details about this story. And later on, we're going to check in and talk about building family bonds through collective history, why one photographer made it his job to make sure that the state of South Carolina has their only African-American museum. So we'll talk about that and a whole lot more. So stay with us. It's the culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation, folks. As it is officially the last Friday of the year. 2023 will just be over just by Sunday, and we start a brand new year. So for those who may not have the chance to hear me say this, Happy New Year. God willing, you'll make it through the transition. We'll make it through the transition together as we kick off a new calendar year. But big shout out to my online culture crew that's been riding with us for this whole entire year. I cannot thank them enough, man. Can't thank you enough for being with us this whole year, folks. So much that has been discussed, so many topics, so many conversations. But you have made this year absolutely incredible. So big shout out to you. I see y'all in the chats right there. We're streaming live on a number of different platforms. You can check us out on our home platform of blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app, follow us on social media, and more importantly, we ask that if this last day of the year, last Friday of the year, that you give something. If you have enjoyed what we have been putting out, the content, the interviews, the conversations, the special streams that we do here on Black Star Network, and you're like, you know what, this is a network that's worthy of my support. Please, by all means, support us today. Download the app, follow us on social media, but give something to help us power us through this digital movement. Now, we're also on Amazon platforms, on Amazon News, on your Fire TV. You can check us out there on Amazon Prime Video. You can also check us out there. There you go. Prime Video app under Live TV, The News, or find us under Amazon.com under Prime Video, then the Live TV, The News, or you can find us on Freevee there. Just check us out on now under News. And we're also on Plex TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we would love to connect with you there. Now, also, we're streaming on our various platforms, social media platforms. Check us out on Roland Martin's Facebook page. Big shout out to the culture crew on the Facebook page. There we go. There we go. Come on. Big shout out to the culture crew on the X platform. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. And of course, big shout out to my online culture crew in the YouTube space. Pastor Damon Blissett back in the chat. He's going to keep regulating some stuff today. Thank you so much, Pastor. Big Brother Willie Frazier. Happy Friday, crew. Happy Friday to you, Big Brother Willie. Arlene Starks, I see you. Deidre Hall, I see you. Ming Lee, Natasha Surge, I see you. Who else we got? The ABX girl, my sister. Thank you so much for checking in. Cindy D, thank you for checking in. Singing Denise R. Hello, the culture crew. Hello, Singing Denise R. Thank you so much for checking in. When y'all come into the chat, make sure y'all hit that likes button, that thumbs up button, and so that way we can get the algorithms moving. All right, folks, let's talk about some of these things. I got two dynamic women joining me on the panel today. I cannot wait to hear all that they have to say. These are two fantastic sisters who are doing some fantastic work in a number of different spaces. And the first one, we know who she is. She makes her presence known all the time in the chat. And more importantly, she's doing the work of helping high school students getting into the colleges, and she's doing some political activism. I'm speaking of none other than my sister, Corinna Denise, is joining us as well. Corinna, happy Friday. Happy last day Friday of the 2023.
Yes, and look, I want you to check something out real quick, what I wore for Friday for the last.
What is that? For the culture. Look at that, my sister. My sister. This is the most.
Guess who designed it?
Who designed it?
Black woman. I'm just gonna put this up real quick.
What's her name? Put it out there. She got a look at me. You got a BJ's card. She's
in collaboration with BJ's. Sheena
okay.
Miller. So
what's her name?
Another night, Sheena Miller, and I was like, okay, I had to pick it up, you know.
No, let's see the shirt one more time, Corinna. Let's see the shirt. What it says? It's got a black afro. The black woman went rocking the afro for the culture. I love that. You think we can get her on the show? There we go.
I hope so. I think we could Google her and find her contact.
Can we Google her or something?
Let's go.
Look at it. I mean, we're promoting her product.
Yeah.
So she should pay us to do that. Oh man!
Contribution
right, make a little something. Well, we got a big shout out to all of the independent Black designers out there. So that's what's up. All right, let's bring in our other panelists for today, our other contributors. You're going to be hearing more from our sister because she is doing some fantastic work in the education space as well. She has been an educator, an administrator. She's also an author. She's a public speaker. I'm speaking of none other than my sister, Kimberly, Kim. I'm not going to call it Kim. Kimberly Mauro. Kimberly. Hey, Kimberly, good afternoon and welcome back to the culture. And happy Friday, Kimberly. How are you today?
I am good, and it's good to be back. Well, listen, hi, Corinna. I love your shirt. And I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm just going to say, so I designed this shirt.
What? Okay, so I need the information so we can get this shirt.
Wait a minute. Hold on, Kimberly. What's your shirt say? Be bold, explore.
Explore everything. Be bold, explore everything.
Damn.
So I came up with it when I was doing one of my vision boards, and it was like, okay, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Be
that's why
bold, explore everything.
I encourage kids to do that, and us adults too. Yeah.
That is dope right there. That is dope. All right, so let's talk, ladies. First and foremost, let's talk about this first story around Kansas, how the Kansas governor has decided to use the occasion of celebrating Kwanzaa, which we are embarked upon. This is, what is this, day 3 of Kwanzaa?
Day 3, yeah.
Yeah, we're in day 3 of the celebration of Kwanzaa. And, I think every Black person just recognizes it, whether you Muslim, Christian, whatever your faith is, whatever it's a celebration of our history and our culture. So so yesterday, the Kansas governor, she was at an event and she talks about racism and prejudice has no place in Kansas. We're talking about Governor Laura Kelly. Now, this is something that she said as a response to a very highly publicized situation that happened in a school that we saw back in November. Students at this Kansas school called Shawnee Mission East High School in Prairie Village, they walked out in protest because a white sophomore shouted racial slurs and punched a Black female schoolmate and broke her nose. This was like big national attention. It was everywhere on social media. If y'all didn't hear about this story, he's a white male sophomore. He's screaming at this Black girl, calling her the N-word and every other type of language, derogatory term, and he punches her nose. And so Governor Kelly took the time to make the mention to make it clear that this was not going to be acceptable. She pointed out that this situation really struck a nerve for her, and she said she wanted to really address the wrongs about racism. She said in a recent interview with the Topeka Capital Journal. I want to be clear, racism and prejudice have no place in Kansas. As governor, I will continue to call out and condemn racism, prejudice, and any behavior or rhetoric that aims to discriminate and divide whenever and wherever I see it. Kimberly, I want to start with you on this. When we're looking at situations, school situations, racial situations like this, it's one thing for the governor to say something, but I'm still kind of leery about how the school systems, and in particular districts and states across this country, handle racist situations. What's your take on this? Like, how do schools respond appropriately to moments like this?
First of all, they have to be honest and address the issue head on. So, of course, that student should have been suspended, and if he were a Black student, we already know he would have been arrested as well. But we don't really know what happened because, of course, he's a minor, so they keep all of that under wraps. But it's a teachable moment as well for not only that student, but other students who have those feelings. And so to address racism head on and just make sure that they know it's not acceptable, and not just only by punishing the students. Of course, that is necessary. There needs to be some consequences to his action, but also allowing for some dialogue and conversation. And unfortunately, I know when I was in the school system, it was very difficult to address those issues, especially with parents, because of course, you know, I'm not racist. I don't know where he got it from, but we all know a lot of times they learn that at home. And I'm glad you brought that up, Kimberly, because I feel like that is a constant refrain that we hear, like, I'm not racist. And I'm always thinking, when I see students, young people, you know, with racist issues like this, I'm like, well, they must have learned it from somewhere. It's hard for me to believe that if it's not at home, then it's not with someone else that they're close to. It's just hard for me to say, oh, no, that's not happening. I can't believe that. Right.
I mean, if they're not learning it at home, okay, but someone close to them has dropped the seed in their thinking, like the students thinking, to say, you know what, this is how you should see the world. So yes, we could talk all about the disciplinary actions, but a lot of times, Kimberly, and very quickly before we take our first pause, we don't hear about how the school, like we hear about the incident, but we don't hear the school coming out publicly and saying, look, this is what we're going to do. We've instituted some new, you know, sensitivity, you know, training programs or something. We just don't hear about it. It's like, it's just out there in the ether, and it doesn't give anybody any peace of mind that something is going to change. What's your take?
Because nothing changes. As you know, I worked in the school system for many years, and I've experienced these issues. And a lot of times what they want to do is sweep it under the rug because it's an uncomfortable conversation to have. It's uncomfortable conversation to have with parents who are in denial. It's uncomfortable conversations to have with some of your staff members who feel that same way. So it's very uncomfortable, and you have people that they don't want to take on those hard conversations. And it takes an administrator, it takes a teacher, it takes somebody who does not mind taking on those hard conversations. And so that, I mean, there it is. It's getting swept under the rug. They don't want to admit that there is racism in their school. It's not, it doesn't happen here. We're not racist here. Our kids are not racist here. So that was a fluke.
We're going to stay in a state of denial. We got to take our first pause. When we come forward, Corinne, I want to get your take on that, because I want to get a sense of how should students respond when racial incidents like this happen, and more importantly, what can the state of Kansas do moving forward. Also, got a quick correction, and big shout out to the crew, man. I always appreciate them, and this is part of the why this platform is important. Pretty Brown Mimi 726 Mimi, you said Farajii, it's actually day 4 of Kwanzaa. Today is cooperative economics. So, Mimi, thank you so much for calling us out on that and making that correction for us, because we truly appreciate it. We don't want to put out misinformation. So again, thank you, Mimi. It is day 4 Kwanzaa, folks, as we're celebrating here at Black Star Network. See, this is what my team does. Y'all see this? Y'all see this? All right, let's go. We're gonna take a quick pause. When we come back, stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Jeez.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation, you and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by two dynamic sisters who are giving their thoughts on this conversation around the Kansas governor taking occasion of decrying racism at a Kwanzaa celebration event. And this is coming on the heels of a situation where there was a white male student in a high school in Kansas who said some racial slurs to a Black girl student. And not only did he just say racial slurs, he punched the girl and broke her nose. So Governor Laura Kelly had decided to use the moment of celebrating Kwanzaa yesterday to decry racism and to speak out and making it plain that racism and prejudice have no place in Kansas. Here's the thing around this, though, Corinna, because I'm hearing with Kimberly Morrow joining us here today. As one of our new contributors. You're going to hear from her more often in 2024. But of course, we got our sister Corinna Denise here on Fridays as well. But here's the thing, Corinna. When situations like this happen, with this girl being punched by a white student, when I was listening to Kimberly, it takes a lot of courage and forward-thinking people to be able to say, hey, this is not just going to be a problem if we don't address it. But this could add to the culture. This can open up the door for another incident like this to happen. How should students respond to this, right? You know, they're one thing with some administrators who might be like, you know what, it is what it is. It'll kind of die down. In response to this situation, students walked out of the school. They protested. So talk to us about the importance of the student response to racial issues in school.
Oh, most definitely. And, you know, I just want to quickly piggyback off of what Kimberly said before the break about being uncomfortable, right? You know, you have a lot of teachers who do not want to have, and even administrators, those uncomfortable conversations. And believe it or not, who's the most courageous in those situations more often than not are the students. I have actually been in settings where I have walked out in solidarity with my students for different reasons in protest, not necessarily with a physical altercation, but where maybe there was a discrepancy with a white teacher, you know, in all transparency. So I think our kids today are bold enough to know that they need to rally together and take action, and they need to speak up, right? Because it's their school, you know. And then let's talk about school culture, right? What's happening in the school? Were conversations not already happening, you know, with race, especially with the current temperament of the country right now? You know, a lot of things have kicked up, we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years. So what do those conversations look like? You know, I hope it's not a matter of just being reactive now, because we had a violent situation where someone was actually assaulted and called a racial slur. So this has to be something that's continuing to happen, right?
Yeah.
Around, even if it's just in homeroom, if they're like in maybe an advisory group or after school activities where they're having these conversations. But the students definitely need to rally together and have their collective voice. You know, I've also been in situations where students have, you know, come to me and some of my other colleagues, you know, asking for help, where we want to help, but we have to push them and encourage them to say, look, you guys have power in numbers, and you actually have more leverage if you're actually taking these concerns directly to the administration as a student body, you know, rather than us just being the liaison as a teacher. Because sometimes, unfortunately, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, even us as colleagues and teachers, when we take it to the higher level, you know, staff or administrators, sometimes they want to ignore it. You know, so it has a lot more power and it resonates more when the students are actually, you know, approaching it. And then I always tell them, look, you need to get your parents inside of this building. You know, you need to get your parents on the line, communicate with your parents, make sure they know what's going on so that they can be a positive reinforcement, you know, and an advocate for you as well when you're voicing these concerns. But definitely have to speak up. And like I said, more oftentimes than not, they are very courageous in doing so and won't hold back. It's usually those administrators and those teachers sometimes who don't want to have those uncomfortable conversations.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Karen Connor is one of our great culture crew members. Karen checked in and said, look, it's always comes from the centers of influence, talking about racism. And when children, Kimberly, when children express some racist tendencies, Karen is saying it always comes from the center of influence. You're talking about parents. She said parents, grandparents, other family, neighbors, and their friends. In some cases, older siblings also carry on legacies of racism. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, a few years ago, I had a student who, his parents were so sweet. They were wonderful, but he had fallen into a circle of friends, and he took on that whole thing with the swastikas and all of that. And it was very difficult for them. So what she says is true. It may not necessarily be the parents per se, but it's the people around them also that can, you know, heavily influence them. And he stayed on that path for a couple of years.
Wow. Was he able to get off that path?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, he was. He was.
Okay.
He's turned into a completely different, he's a different adult now. But I actually witnessed that, and his parents were truly good people, and just were at their wits' end with him. So it is your sphere of influence. I definitely agree with her on that.
Let me ask you, let's talk a little bit, and I'm glad that you pointed that up, but let's talk about something that Corinna just discussed, which is school culture. that when students decide to take matters into their own hands, and I'm not talking about the violence, I'm talking about in response to the violence, like walking out and protest. I remember working in Baltimore City when not racial issues would come up, but other issues would come up and students would do protests. And some educators, some administrators, Kimberly, were even like, oh, no, you can't do that. Parents were afraid, saying, oh, if you walk out of this school, you're going to miss this class time. And I'm trying to figure out what is the proper balance, because there's one thing we teach our children to stand up for what we believe, but then at the same time we want them to stay in line, even though they're experiencing or they may be seeing some level of injustice. But they may say, you know what, my parents want me to stay in class right now. Don't worry about this. So I feel like there's some mixed messages that can be sent from both parents and administrators in creating this school culture, as Corinna pointed out, creating a culture of fear and hesitancy versus advocacy and boldness. Can you, how do we walk that fine line?
Well, and let me just say this. We have to remember one thing. Principals, administrators are middle management. They're not the top of the food chain. So their directives are coming down from the school district office or the superintendent. So when their students are walking out, they're getting heat put on them from their bosses. So a lot of times it's not that you have administrators that don't want to be supportive. They're in fear of their jobs. Administrators are at-will employees. They're scared. I speak from experience. I was an at-will employee. I'm telling you, they are afraid, and you don't have enough that are courageous to stand up and say, you know what, this is a job, but these students need me, or I need to look at myself in the mirror and be able to do certain things, which is what I had to do. So yeah, we would like to blame the administrators. But they're scared. A lot of times, some of them
you're talking
are
about you're talking about Black administrators too, not just, you're talking about everybody.
Everybody.
You hear?
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, because you always have to remember someone else has a boss, right? But I will speak to like those walkouts now. I have been in walkouts, as I mentioned, with my students, but they approach it carefully. Initially they'll rally, they'll request to have a meeting with administration, bring the matters to their attention, letting them know this is what we would like to do. When would be the most appropriate time for it to happen, right? Like, not in the middle of, a really important class. Sometimes it could be homeroom, maybe towards the end of the day, or maybe the latter part of the week, trying to make sure it's going to accommodate everyone where they're not actually just missing out on their studies, right? Unless, there's really some egregious pushback where they're just like, no, then maybe then you take it up a notch to say, we're just going to do it at this time when we want. I personally haven't seen that happen. I would imagine it happens elsewhere. But, at least to let the administration know, like, look, like this is of concern to us. This is how we would like to respond. And out of, consideration and respect, we're bringing it to you first to find out when would be the, the best time for us to do so, and what's the appropriate amount of time that we could be allotted to do it, right? Maybe we're working with solidarity for like 15 minutes, maybe the last, 15 minutes of first period or whatever the case may be. So, there's different ways to go about it. And of course, I think too, those students also want to, if the school has like maybe like PTA, Parent Teacher Association, or Parent Teacher Council, informing them of what they're going to do so that there are no surprises. And then it doesn't snowball and turn into an issue of, oh, your child walked out at such and such time today, right? And of course, students consulting with, trusted mentors in the school, teachers who could guide them accordingly. What would be the most appropriate way to go about, protesting, or, to stand in solidarity where, it doesn't upend the school day, completely. So there are ways to doing this where it's effective, but it's also strategic at the same time.
Well, you know what? It's a lot of work that has to be done, sisters. And this is part of the reason why when we hear not just situations about these students, but more importantly, when we hear the conversation, the talk around school culture and really getting to the bottom of the fear, as you pointed out, Kimberly, I think that's going to be the big thing. If we are not if we're showing some level of boldness and fearlessness, then we can change the culture in our schools. We can change people from being silent. Parents can show up at these meetings. School officials can definitely, find a little more steel in their backbone because of this situation. But, I do feel like it's a lot of fear. And when the students have more boldness, when they have more strength than the parents or the adults in the school, that's a problem. That's a real problem. That means that the students are at risk of weak leadership that's not going to speak up for them. And we know that Black students are at the bottom of the list of those who will advocate for them. And that's a very, very real problem. So I hope that the state of Kansas gets in somewhere. And I know Pastor Damon Blissett, another great culture crew member, he said, Farajii, there's racism all over the place in this area. He's down in St. Louis, so, in Kansas City and that area. He says racism everywhere. So you can't get weak. As adults, we can't get weak because we got the next generation that is looking to us, relying on us to change the dynamic. And otherwise, the only thing we're going to be able to pass on to them is fear.
And real quick, Farajii, I know we got to go to break, but I just want to say this is where, this is news now, right? Where the governor has decided to magnify this. The parents now need to take the initiative to step in to be that support of advocacy for their children who are in schools and putting the pressure on administrators, teachers, like, hey, what are we going to do about this so that we don't see an act of violence like this again? And my child feels safe to be in school.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sisters, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue to talk about education. Let's talk about the Department of Education putting out a report just last month. A lot of folks may not have talked about this, but it's a report that confirms that there is disparity in educating Black children. We'll talk a little bit about what was said in that report and get the take from both Corinna and Kimberly and from you. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all. All momentum we have now. We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining me as I am being joined by two dynamic women, Corinna Denise, college advisor, who is a political strategist as well, an activist. And then we're also joined by Miss Kimberly Morrow, who is a longtime educator and administrator. She's an author, she's a speaker, and she'll be joining us here on The Culture here in 2024. So we've been talking about the state of education. And sisters, I got this piece around something that came out of the Department of Education, what essentially confirms what we know is happening within the classroom, that there is a disparity when you're talking about teaching white children versus Black and brown children. This is a report from the Civil Rights Data Collection that confirms this racial disparity. I'm gonna share with you a little bit what this report has to say. This actually came out last month in November. And the root.com did a story around it, but then I didn't hear too much about this too much. So I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Maybe we need to kind of go back and take a look at this and start some new conversations around this. But take a look at this, folks. According to the report, Black and Latinos have less access to advanced placement courses, certified teachers and counselors than their white counterparts, a disturbing disparity that impacts their overall well-being and puts them at a disadvantage when it comes to college readiness. It also says that access to advanced placement AP courses can give students an advantage when applying to college, giving them priority in admissions decisions and access to scholarships. But while Black students made up 15% of all high school students, they only represented 8% of students enrolled in AP science courses and 6% of those in AP math. All right, Corinna, this is right in your wheelhouse. I'm gonna start with you on this one, right? Get your take on this. What does this mean? Like, okay, we recognize that Black and Latino students have less access to these AP courses. What does that mean? Does that mean that this is the onus of responsibility lies on the district? Does it lie on parents and of these students to get them into a better place, you know, educationally, get better grades so that way they can qualify for this? What does that mean as a college admissions advisor?
I think that responsibility kind of relies on some of everyone that you just mentioned, right? But especially the districts, because you will have some districts who emphasize, oh, we are college ready, but they don't have the resources in place. And I have mentioned here on the show before that I have visited schools, you know, who only have maybe one AP class, believe it or not, or have maybe 5, or some might have 8, but everyone doesn't offer the same amount of AP, right? Maybe they don't have the teachers who can actually teach those courses, or for whatever reason, they just haven't looked into it. And I just want to throw out there, when it comes to college admissions, you'll find that a lot of schools, right? These colleges, when students are applying, when you send your transcript as part of your application, they also like to see the school's profile so that they can do a holistic review of their application, looking to see if the student took advantage of the coursework that was actually available to them, right? Because it wouldn't be fair to penalize a student who might not have taken, you know, a handful of AP courses. Well, how can I take them if they're not even being offered to me at my school? So at least they can see the profile to see, okay, this is what's being offered. This is what the student took advantage of. But yeah, I mean, we definitely would want to see more of those advanced placement courses, right? Of course, if you get a 3 or higher, you could get college credit. But even if you don't earn the college credit, it adds a nice weight to your GPA. It shows that you're ready for college-ready coursework. But yeah, there is a disparity where you'll see like there is more access to white students, right? And predominantly white schools where they are getting these additional classes, right? Where they're getting into highly selective colleges for a whole other bunch of reasons, you know, and advantages that they have specifically to that group, unlike our Black and Latino students. But yeah, I think it's definitely the district. But how do we get the district to take that initiative, right? That again comes from the students, the parents, the teachers. You know, what do we do to get college ready? And especially those communities also want to, you know, cultivate those relationships with admissions representatives, especially like your guidance counselors, college advisors, and counselors in the school, to kind of advocate to say, hey, we need to add this into our curriculum so that our students can have, a better chance and be more competitive when it comes to applying to college. But yeah, there are a lot of disparities, unfortunately, with Black and Latino students.
Absolutely. Kimberly, Kimberly, I'm wondering, when it talks about the fact that, not only are AP courses not really being offered and our representation in the courses are very, very low. It also states in this report that the level of social and emotional support for students of color that students of color receive, the data shows that Black and multiracial students were 1.2 times more likely to attend a school with a police officer or security guard, but no counselor. So we're also looking at, from the AP courses getting into advanced placement, we're looking at them students being in spaces where they're seeing more police officers and less counselors, less social emotional assistance is being made. And according to the Education Secretary Miguel Cardona, he calls the results appalling. He said, "We view education as a springboard that puts the American dream within reach, yet access to educational opportunity in this country remains unequal." What is there schools that are doing something to change this? Is this just on individual schools or districts? Because this has been happening for at least 50 years, Kimberly.
It is. And you know what? It angers me so much because I've actually seen this as a WASC person, going out to visit the schools. And so you have this loop, this cycle. Well, the reason why we don't offer those AP courses is because the students don't want to take them. And then, so they have all of these excuses.
You're saying that that's
why.
I'm sorry, you're saying that that's the reason that administrators give for not offering AP courses to Black and brown students.
Yes, that's one of the reasons. One of the reasons.
That yes, not because we don't qualify, but they're going to put it on the students to say it's the students' fault for not taking them.
They don't want to take them. So it's not truly a college-going culture school if you're not even offering classes that will send them to college. But one of the things I wanted to say that came up in the last part was, this job is not for the weak. When you choose to go into education, this job is not for the weak. It's for the strong. You have to go in knowing that it's going to be a battle, constant battle. You're constantly having to fight for these students' rights, whether they're Black students, brown students. Look, I worked in an area where the socioeconomic level was very low. So I'm talking, white students who didn't fall, who fell in the poverty line area. And so we see this, it's not just Black students, brown students, it's poor white students, poor, Asian students. All of them are being left behind. And it's so frustrating because they'll take you in this circle. Well, the reason why we don't do it is because the students don't want it. And the students are like, no, we want the classes, they're just not offering them. And so somebody has got to step up for these students regardless. And I would always tell the parents, look, you have way more power than I have. There's only so much I can do. But if they're hearing from you as parents, trust me, you're going to move the needle further than I'm going to move the needle. And so it's a matter of getting these parents on board and really explaining to them what their power is. The power, because like Corinna said before, it's everybody working together. It's not just the school district. It's not just the parents. It's not just the students. I know I'll see teachers say, well, if the parents did this and the schools are, and the parents are saying the schools need to do this. No, we all have to work together. We have to work together to bring about this change. So when you say, Farajii, is it the school? Who is it? It's everybody. Everybody has dropped the ball for whatever reason, for whatever reason.
I think, I know we got to take another pause, but I think that is the problematic part, because even though we all know that we are all responsible, no one is taking responsibility
or initiative.
No, or the initiatives, and I'm not saying no one is making a blanket say. I'm just saying that, of course, you got in every single school, you got some parents who are just on it. They're at the meetings. They're constantly, involved in their children's education. They created IEPs and all other types of plans for their children and for the students. But I'm saying in mass, education has lost its shininess for Black America. In mass, we're not riding that, because I think that part of it, and I mean, some folks might get upset with me, but I think that because it's contextualized, you get a good education, get a job, versus you get a good education for self-development and community service. I think that those things kind of get mixed up. So people are like, oh, I can get a good job. I don't need to go to school. I don't need to be in these AP courses, versus saying, no. You go to school because you want to become a better person. You want to learn how to sharpen your emotional maturity. You want to learn how to do your critical thinking skills and take that to a higher level. You want to learn how to read and comprehend words and use words better. This is not about a job. I think we have I think we have the wrong goal at the end of the day, Kimberly. Yes. You got 30 seconds. I'm gonna allow you to say something to that.
100%, I agree. And I know for my generation, that is what we were taught. You got to get a good job. And it still lingers. And when I was in a classroom, I was like, look, forget, the students were like, what's my grade? What's my grade? What's my grade? I don't care about your grade per se. I care that you learn. I care that you learn these skills. I care that you learn this information. And even in schools, they're so caught up in grades. Yes. And everything is about grades and image and this and that.
Right, and test scores. Come on, Kimberly, we got to say it now.
There you go. But everybody talking about some damn test scores. It's not about grades. It's not about test scores. It's about the love of learning. It's about, like you said, the critical thinking skills of how to communicate. So some of these kids, they have high test scores. They don't know how to communicate.
Come on.
They don't know how to work with people. They don't know how to collaborate. They don't have those skills. And so somewhere along the line, we lost it. It's like we got focused on the wrong thing. Right. And unfortunately, everybody is not a great test taker. Everybody is not going to get all A's, but that's what they're looking at. That's the problem. And that's the problem.
That's the great word. Come on,
the doors of the church are open. She just gave a whole word.
Come on.
That's that, right? Because it's like it gets to the point now where you're teaching to the test. And are the kids, it's just a matter of memory, right? Like, I'm memorizing this information, but am I retaining it? Am I learning it? Can I,
can you apply
it to someone else,
Yeah.
So, yeah. You just said a whole word there.
Said a whole word, and this is what you're going to get from Kimberly, aka Kim. Kim, I appreciate you. No, seriously, I really appreciate you. I thank you. I look forward to having more of these conversations with you in 2024. You're joining the roster, so we're excited to hear what you got to say. You got another new contributor. I am Trinette Collier. Trinette is in the chat room, just blazing it up in the chat as well. She joined us yesterday, but you're absolutely right. Absolutely. There we go. But you're absolutely correct. I think that we're in Corinna, to your excellent point, we got to stop teaching to a test, teaching people for edification of their thinking, for helping them to gain a higher consciousness of who they are in the world around them. I always stress this to my son, and I said this, and I know some of parents got a little mad at me. I said, son, I really don't. I mean, in the big scheme of things, yeah, you can get a test, but it's really about your ability to think. That's why I stress to him, as a 10-year-old boy, I want you to learn how to think. And even if you don't think like me, that's okay, because I think that's the other issue that we're challenged with, that a lot of parents are challenged with, that if your child is thinking on a different level, different frequency, we're like, you're not understanding. No. They're understanding it, but they're understanding it in a different way.
Right.
And that's okay. That's okay. Like and I think all three of us on this conversation, and every folks in the chat, we understand when with that one person in our school, you're not going to never get far along, because they expected us to think the same way, very quote unquote linear, very quote unquote logical. Everybody's not that way. Everybody doesn't think that way. We don't see the world that way. And we should affirm that, especially in Black boys and girls. That needs to be affirmed and not be shamed by adults, especially Black adults. All right, I got to take a quick pause. My producer's getting upset with me, y'all. Make sure y'all check out Kimberly. Kimberly, where can folks find all of the work that you're doing?
You could go to my Facebook page, Kimberly A. Morrow. You can visit me on Instagram, or you can go to my website, kimamorrow.com.
And that's what we're going to have to do for Corinna. We're going to have to get her a website now because she's getting too famous. She's getting way too famous. Kimberly Morrow, thank you so much.
I got you, girl.
Thank you so much. Hey, Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us. We pray that you have a great transition into the new year, and God willing, we'll see you next week here on The Culture. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, me and Corinna are going to chop it up a little bit more about a case in Wisconsin. Wait till you hear the details of this case, because I'm asking the question, when does your job stop having authority over you, especially when it comes to your personal life? Is that at 5 o'clock or never? We'll talk a little bit about this. Plus, let's talk about history as we're continuing to celebrate Kwanzaa here at Black Star Network. So stay with us. Conversation is up next right here on the Black Star, on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in. Joined by my sister, Corinna Denise, who has been joining us all this year. I mean, she's been on the culture, doing her thing, having a fantastic year with us. Man, she traveled the world.
It's been a year. I just realized that. And we both have longer hair now, too. You know? A lot of new growth. It's been a pleasure.
A lot of soul growth, a little soul growth. You know what I'm saying? Like I look at Corinna, I look at my hair sometimes and I'll be like, damn, I got locks. You know, you wake up, you're like, damn. Black folks with locks. All right, let's talk about now. It is Friday.
Friday.
Okay.
2023 is over. Can you believe it?
2023 is over. Now, look, here's what we're not going to bring into 2024. Ignorance. All right, let's talk about this because I know the crew, everybody like, what you talking about, Farajii? All right, check it out. Imagine, all right, let me do a one shot on this. Let's do a one shot on this. Then we're going to bring Corinne back in. Y'all, check this out. Imagine you doing your thing with your spouse or your significant other. Now imagine your job finds some stuff of you doing your thing with your spouse or significant other. Imagine your job firing you for doing something with your spouse or significant other. That's what happened in the University of Wisconsin. All right, let's bring Corinna back in. That's what happened. 63-year-old chancellor from the University of Wisconsin. I'm telling you, and this is why I'm going to bring this up. The 63-year-old chancellor from the University of Wisconsin was recently fired because him and his wife had some porn videos online that were discovered. That were discovered by the University of Wisconsin. Now, here's why I think this is an interesting story. The interesting part is, one, this is his wife. Mm-hmm. Two, according to the now fired chancellor, he said, we've been making videos and books for years. And then three, the Board of Regents from the University of Wisconsin system, they terminated this chancellor after, quote unquote, discovering sexually explicit videos. According to the chancellor himself, Mr. Joe Gao, he said that they wanted to take their activities that he has done with his wife to a more modern mainstream space. So he puts it on porn sites. He said on those sites, we don't make mention of our roles or jobs or anything. We just do what we do with each other.
She's got a point. She's an icon. She's a legend.
My thing is, when the job goes too far, because here's what they said, the University of Wisconsin, let's put up the first quote, please. And I want y'all to give me your take on this, crew. Let's put up the first quote. The Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin system, they terminated 63-year-old chancellor from his position after discovering sexually explicit videos he made with his wife, according to statements from the officials and reporting from major media outlets that interviewed the ex-chancellor. Mr. Joe Gao, who according to his university profile, serves as the 10th chancellor of the University of Wisconsin La Crosse, said in a statement to media outlets that he was being punished over porn videos he made with his wife. He has not received, quote unquote, due process, and the books and videos my wife and I have produced are protected under the First Amendment. He goes on, and now, according to the University of Wisconsin, they put out this statement. Let's put up statement. Let's put up quote number 2. They say, quote, Joe Gile has shown a reckless disregard for the role he was entrusted with at University Wisconsin La Crosse to serve students, faculty, and staff and the campus community. This is according to the president of the school's board of regents, Karen Walsh, she said in a statement. The outrage over his behavior is evidenced by the unanimous vote by the UW Board of Regents to terminate him as chancellor. We are alarmed and disgusted by his actions, which were wholly and undeniably inconsistent with his role as chancellor.
I just find this so amusing. Like the
first thing, he's doing this with his wife. This is not like a side chick, little sneaky link.
Yeah, it would have been more scandalous if it wasn't his wife, right?
It would have been more scandalous. He said he's been doing this for years. My question is though, Corinna, they said they discovered this somewhere.
How did they discover it though? And who discovered it? So if according to the former chancellor that his name is not on display, right? His wife. So I'm gonna maybe assume that someone from the university who wanted to partake in that, and they saw his face, and then they decided, I'm going to bring this to their attention. So did they bring this matter to the attention of the university anonymously? You know, it's just, how did the discovery come about? That'd be fun.
That's the question I'm having. Like what? but even more so. Okay, so we know that that's suspect in and of itself. But even more so, like when your job goes too far and I get it. This is a chancellor of a college. I get that, of a university, rather. I get that. But if he wants some loving from his wife, and they just do this, and I mean, to say that it's disgusting and abhorrent, and it doesn't fit the what do you think 63-year-olds do when they get home? What are you saying? What do you think happened? Like I feel like this is a case where, and I don't know how many of y'all have experienced this, but you ever worked at a place, Corinna, where those people, they take the job so serious they don't have a personal life. I hate working with people like that, man. I'm gonna keep it real. Like I love what I do, I enjoy what I do, but you know what?
Boundaries. But you know what, Farajii, would we be raising this point if these videos were not with his wife? Because I do think that there would definitely be more pushback. I don't know if the reaction would be, well, you know, it was with his, you know, well, oh, he's having an affair on his wife and he put this out there. But, you know, I don't know if because this was with his wife, it necessarily softens the blow. And yeah, you've been doing it for years, but yeah, we do have to be careful what we put on the internet because it lives there forever. Someone came across it. I'm actually kind of surprised considering that they just ousted him, but I guess, you know, overall that's a bad look for the university.
Wait a minute. What's a bad look for the university?
Perhaps, I mean, I'm just saying from their point of view now. I'm looking at this.
I mean, let's
they're looking at it as, you know what? Oh man. Okay. So, you know, maybe they're just thinking like, oh my goodness, we got to get rid of him. We discovered this video, but you know, maybe they're thinking that other folks might see it. So I don't know. I'm trying to understand the motive behind them saying, okay, we found these videos of the chancellor with his wife online. We have to oust him. And I do wonder how it would be if
I think that's overreach. I think that's overreach.
Yeah,
I think that's overreach.
I really don't have an opinion because this is just kind of odd. But yeah, it could be you think it's overreach because it's his wife? What if it wasn't his wife?
No, I'm not talking about it's overreach because you're trying to act as if this man is not married, that he still doesn't have intimate relationships, right? And essentially, even though he's let's keep it real. Well, you know what? I'm gonna take a quick pause because before I even say this, I know it's gonna open up a can. So I'm gonna take a quick pause. We're gonna take a quick pause as we talk about the situation of the University of Wisconsin ex-chancellor being fired for posting porn videos of him and his wife online and the school discovering it. and saying that this is a no-no for his role. What's your take on this? Post your comments on the chat as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page, Roland Martin's Facebook page, and on X. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
But a lot of stuff that we're not getting, you get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We're talking about the case of Mr. Joe Gao, who is served as the ex-chancellor for the University of Wisconsin in La Crosse, and how he was just recently fired this week as a result of him and his wife, Carmen Wilson, posting the pornographic videos on porn sites that the university discovered. And as a result of that, the University of Wisconsin Board of Regents felt like they're spilling a little tea too much and fired them. Now, Carmen Wilson actually was also fired, just to add to the story. She was fired. So he was fired. His wife was fired because she was in an unpaid position, working as an associate for the chancellor. So basically, they got rid of this couple for doing couple things because they were too naughty, folks. They're too naughty. Apparently, nobody has sex in the state of Wisconsin. Corinna, let's bring you back. Nobody has sex in the state, or nobody. See, here's why I think this is a problem. This is a slippery slope, because when you start talking about what you can do in your personal time, you know, jobs, they always say that. I don't care what role it is. You could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, you could be a professor, you could do all of that. You could have salary jobs, you could be making $1 million. everybody, this is just me talking, I believe that every human being should be afforded privacy and they should be afforded that personal time from their job. What you do on your personal time, especially when it's with your spouse. Now, if this was a student, definitely, boom, you knocked out the park. If this was another staff,
you discovered the video, Farajii? You think that's what happened? A student might.
Hey, look, culture crew member Young Seek said that. He said it's probably a student who got a bad grade from this chancellor. Somebody that had a bad interaction was like, because there's no way in the world. Unless, well, I'm not gonna say no way in the world, unless one of the administrators just happened to be on a porn site like Pornhub or something. Next thing you know, they came across the state. That's Chancellor Gao. Oh my God. Jeez, Chancellor Gao. Wow.
And you know what's something else too, because his wife was also at the university, and even though her position you mentioned was unpaid, right? She was also let go. You know, it's not like it sounds to me, it's not like they were discovered doing stuff in a room or an office or a space the campus, right? This was on their own time. So I really wonder, how did they make this decision? And then according to the former chancellor, he didn't get his due process. Like, it sounds like there was no hearing, there was no discussion really. It's just they discovered the material and they just ousted him. So I don't think that's necessarily fair. Like, everyone should get their due process. And, you know, even though he also mentioned, like, we've been uploading these videos for years, you know, what are they basing this on? Was it something that was recently uploaded? I know I'm getting detailed, but I would really like to know what were all the ingredients into producing this recipe of a decision.
Of course. Hey, y'all, of course. Y'all listen to Corinna. Do y'all hear what Corinna is saying? Hey, I'd like to get some details as to what camera they used, the angles, what was the set like? I mean, we got to get into the mind.
I don't even know how they set up the camera. I just want to know. Like, you know, is this recent footage? Like, how long ago did you all know about this? And you know what? He can't be the only one who has uploaded some stuff. And that's
the other part. That's the other part. Like, if you have, I mean, that means that every person that uploads a video to a porn site, their job should be at risk. Because there's somebody, they work for somebody. You see what I'm saying? And I think the slippery slope is, and Karen, you pointed this out, Karen Connor, you said, all humor aside, in many professions, people are required to use discernment in their private lives. Action outside of good moral character are ground for termination. Keep it private. So, and again, to me, this seems like a very tight rope to walk, because he did it on his own time with the consent of his wife, without saying anything about the role that he was playing, unless the camera was in his face, like, hi, my name is Joe, and he's doing all this other stuff, and I'm Joe Gao.
But we also have to look at it too, and again, I'm just raising it objectively. I kind of have mixed feelings about this. I would need a little bit more evidence before I'm like, yeah, I agree with him being ousted, or to have like I want to have an informed opinion about it. But can we really tug a war with this? Yes, I know it's like their privacy, but it's just like when we see some of these racists make some of these egregious comments, and their job sees that they do this publicly, right? When people are recording them on their TikTok, and then they let them go.
So that's to me that, you know what? I disagree with you on this one, Corinna.
Well, I'm just saying they could argue that.
Racist behavior, racist language affects other people. It insults and offends other people. It's considered to be hurtful speech. You and I know that, right?
You have a point there.
That affects other people. You and your wife doing your thing don't affect other people.
Okay,
and I know this might sound crazy for me, but I'm just saying.
So he should have been able to keep his job. Is that where we're going with this? Like, it didn't necessarily with his role as chancellor, right? It wasn't with the student. He was doing this with his wife, and someone happened to see it. So I don't know if the university was trying to get in front of this. I'm thinking that some students discovered this, and they were like, before the students bring attention to it, we're just going to go ahead, and we want to be the ones to make the announcement, you know. And now I'm not saying whether I agree or disagree. I'm just kind of thinking maybe that's their MO, how they were going about it, you know.
Well, this is something that he said. He said that, and I want to go to the other quote. Did we get the second quote? Let me make sure I put it as there. Let's go to this. Now, let me go to this other quote about it, because he mentioned something I think that is very something we need to keep in mind. And I think it could be a conversation for, or at least a case study that can be used for other jobs, where other high profile jobs, and especially when you're talking about like the code of ethics. But he said we all should be deeply troubled that the Board of Regents is overlooking the fact that the books and videos my wife and I have produced are protected under the First Amendment, as well as the Regents' own commitment to academic freedom and freedom of expression. He said, what's more, I received no due process from the board. I was not informed of any policy that I allegedly violated, nor was I given a hearing to present my side of the story.
Now, see, that right there, I think, is where they messed up, because now he can sue for wrongful termination.
And it sounds like, and again, this is the slippery slope, that if you work at a place and they see you doing something that a person may not agree with, right? So say your supervisor sees you're off, you're in your own personal time, and it's just like we often hear sometimes. Imagine you hanging out with your friends, you smoking, you drinking, you doing whatever, but this is your off time. It's a Saturday. Mm-hmm. And so somebody says, Corinna, we saw you at this place doing such and such and so, we gotta let you go because it doesn't fit.
You're raising some good points as we're like kind of walking through this. You're making some good points, because if this is on his personal time with his wife and this isn't interfering with his job, then why is the firing justified? But again, I think where they really messed up too is they didn't even give him a hearing. So he didn't get the due process. And, how can they be so sure that this was him? Even if they're going to base, well, we saw you, so we're going to fire you. But how do they know without any reasonable doubt that this is who was on that website, right? This is who the video is. Well, now obviously he's admitting it, right? Because he did mention that him and his wife have been doing these videos for years. But it's like, there's also some secrets there. Like, what are they basing this on that they ousted the man? But yeah, I can see they got a lawsuit coming, I'm pretty sure, with wrongful termination, because you didn't even make it clear, okay, look, you violated this policy, right? You shouldn't have done this. It's just like, oh, we discovered this and you're out, right? And then who is the source? So I would imagine it's just like I could come to you right now, Farajii, and say, I saw a video of so-and-so. What are you going to do? You're going to go online and Google it and look it up to make sure? Right. That's true. I'm telling you, right? Like, you got to fact check my information. So yeah, this is definitely a little messy. And to your point, definitely a slippery slope. I mean, I could see it being argued in a bunch of ways, right? Like I said, I'm thinking maybe a student side. I'm not saying it's right. And like I said, I just need more details. Y'all know I'm very analytical. I need more details to make a decision. But just on what we have, yeah, the firing doesn't sound like it's justified. Because, I mean, do you have enough evidence? I don't know. And then maybe they were just looking for a reason to get rid of him. Sometimes that happens too. And this opportunity came up and they went for it.
I mean, and it could be a lot of those things. And this is not about a person, I see a lot of folks in the chat saying you got to keep your stuff private, right? But you can't legislate people's behaviors nowadays, especially in a time and a culture where people are open about sexuality and things, right? And there are spaces online and in person where a person can do certain things in a certain privacy space, right? So if you're posting your videos, and I know this might sound crazy coming from me, but I think that it's a serious, dangerous precedent if we say that somebody can't do something because of their job. I think that's a dangerous precedent, especially if they're still doing the job well, especially if they're doing this quote unquote violation on their personal time. Because when does the job time over and the personal time begins? Because even if y'all see me in the street doing some wild stuff, right? You can't be like, well, Black Star Network should fire Farajii because I seen him doing A, B, and C. And it's like, okay, I'm a host, but I can't be I can't do anything else. Imagine if we are all confined to the roles that we play at the job.
Well, that's true.
And here's the other thing. Whose morality dictate whether something is good or not good? If that man is he's with his wife in the comfort of their own home, and they're doing something privately, right? And then he still posted it's whatever.
Privately, but they decided to share it publicly.
But there's a space for that.
Well, yes. There's
a space for that, right? So do you get mad at him for doing the act, or do you get mad at him for posting the act?
Look, at the end of the day, and Lise just mentioned a good point, behind the scenes, basically saying like, the university, they're going to do whatever they need to do to salvage their reputation. Because imagine what the conversation would be if this was discovered.
What's the reputation? Wait a minute. Hold on, Corinna, real quick. What is the damage to their reputation that their married chancellor has sex with his wife?
I'm not saying it would damage. I'm just saying
the married chancellor. Oh man, this 63-year-old, he's putting in work.
About, because then, it's like, it feels like you just can't win. Because then the other side, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, the chancellor was caught putting out these videos with his wife and he's still in his position, right? Like, there's always going to be some sort of conversation.
I doubt it.
But
wait, man, hold on, Corinna. What college student do you know of that's going to be like, oh my God, the chancellor has sex at 63? I mean, no. What college student is like that? College student? Do you know? Look, if I was the chancellor and a student did that, I would be like, and what videos do you have of some random party? Your videos are probably, y'all remember them Girls Gone Wild videos?
Yeah.
Now everybody quiet in the chat. Everybody quiet in the chat.
Nasty situation, and I have to be honest, when I initially saw the topic, I was just like, what in the entire hell? Like, this is...
Look, man, look, check this out. I think that it's a precedent. We got to look at it. I know we got to take another pause. So it's a precedent. We got to take a look at it. But if we start trying to legislate morality, quote unquote, or try to dictate somebody's behavior, I think that's like one of those whack-a-mole situations. You get one down and something else pops up. I don't think it's worth the time and effort.
Lise just shared something else. So would it be okay if our president had a sex tape? Let's go back to
but the president,
right?
Wait a minute, time out. Hold up. All right, let's do that. Let's take a break. We're going to give a little bit more time to this because you want to make a point, so I want to hear you out here. Let's take a quick pause. Folks, continue to post your comments in the chat as we're streaming on Roland Martin's YouTube page, Roland Martin's Facebook page, and of course, stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
the comments today. Y'all are on fire for the last Friday of 2023. Welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network, talking about ex-Chancellor Joe Gao, who was fired from his job from the University of Wisconsin La Crosse this week because of some pornographic videos that he made with his wife were discovered online, and University of Wisconsin said it was it was not becoming of a chancellor. I got my sister Corinna Denise joining me in the conversation because she's an educational expert, so why not bring her in on this conversation?
This particular area, yeah, I don't. But yeah, maybe he should have hired you for his attorney because you're doing a good job arguing.
No, it's not. It's not. Look. I mean, because it's very hard. Now, I know some people might say, "Well, Farajii, look, I know I'm reading the comments from the crew, man. I can't even say some of these comments, but some of them." Look, Mingley Natasha Serge, you said teacher stood on business though. He said he's been doing this for years. My man was like, "Hey, I've been doing this."
He was doing it before he got that chancellor position. That's what he wanted to solidify that. Make sure.
I love it. That's funny. That's funny as hell. Pretty Brown Mimi, you said, Farajii, if I ever see you out smoking in jail, I'll pretend I don't see you. Your content is too good to lose. I appreciate that. The sad part is that because we do this online, y'all see me and I can't see you.
You got
oh, snap! You'd be like, oh, snap! It's maybe 7:26.
You gotta be very discreet. You know, if you put your eyes open, somebody's always watching you.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? If I'm out and about, people see me, they be like, oh my God. You know, some people say, and I mean, here's the thing. Like, I've literally had people say to me, man, I never thought I'd see you outside of a suit. Do you think I came into the world with a suit on, bro? Like, I just came out the womb, just whoop, ready to serve.
So basically, the takeaway is if my behaviors outside of work on my personal time are not interfering with the work and with the people at work and bringing no harm to others, then this should not be an issue. Is that the point that we're getting at?
That's what I'm saying, because just simply because that's a little bit, as we talk about stand on business, you can stand on that. You got to actually, now this according to Mr. Gao, he said there was no due process. They never asked him questions or he didn't get a chance to tell his side of the story. But more importantly, he said he was never told what was the violation. Like if you're talking about a code of ethics, does that extend to your bedroom? I mean, your job, they're talking about a code of ethics in accord with the job, right? The boundaries of the job. I don't think anybody would sign a code of ethics that it says, and if we find you doing something, like you're not God. Like who is this?
Specifically that, but it might be worded differently, like any inappropriate behavior, because at the end of the day, too, there is probably being viewed as the fact that he's the chancellor, right? At the university, so you're representing the university. So not necessarily in your off time, but other behaviors. So again, I think they wanted to do damage control and get in front of it. Whether we think it's right or wrong, Farajii, I think that was their deal with taking this step. But I do think it's unfair that he didn't get his due process, you know, for them to actually have a hearing. And then, you know what, something could also come up too, where he might then push back and say, well, hey, like, to his point, my wife and I have been doing this for years. Maybe you didn't do a thorough background check or whatever the case may be if this was an issue, because I've been in this role for however long he's been in the role. And like these videos aren't something new. It's not like it's new to y'all just discovering it. But me and my wife have been doing this for years.
And obviously, look, obviously for the man to even bring this up into the conversation, just like you said, Corinna, like he was like, I've been doing this for years. Y'all finally catch it up. If he's not sexually harassing somebody else, if he's not sleeping with a student, and it's in the confines of his marriage. This is what him and his wife, a consensual partner, wants to do.
Right, but we have to be realistic in the sense that depending on who it is, it will depend on how much or if at all we would extend any grace. And that's just real.
I mean, like, that's true. I think that's true.
Who they want to give grace to. And if this was someone else who was well known, let's say in the atmosphere, that's why I brought up, you know, someone as big as the president. this would be an issue. We got to be honest. Like, that's just a fact. This would be an issue. And
here's the thing. Okay, so if this is such an issue, what does this say about the university's stance on marital relations? And we got to be very careful about this, right? Because as much as you talk back down on a married man doing this with his wife, right? And even if he shares it in a different internet corner, right? Are you sort of kind of talking down on marital relations and sex?
I don't know if we're talking down on marital relations, because again, and I don't even want to get into the quick of all of this, but I'm gonna just go ahead and say it quickly now on the subject. But you just saying marital relations. We don't know if it's just some basic traditional marriage relations. He might have some 50 Shades of Grey.
But check this out.
We don't know who's in the video, right? So again, we don't know what in totality they're taking into consideration.
It's not our business. That's not our business.
It's not. But I'm just saying.
He's not the first thing. He's not hurting anybody. It's consensual. It's out on his own time. Like, that's not our business. I don't need to know. Like, if I come across your video, then you should be looking at me, not looking at the person. Look, it's a video, right? But I found it. I discovered it.
Let me ask you this though, Farajii.
Do
you think, and I'm just curious now, because I just gotta go ahead and say it. Do you think that, whether we're agreeing that this is right or wrong, right, with the chancellor, right? Do you think to an extent, given that he has his white male privilege, that he thought, if this ever comes out, this will never be an issue? Because I can't imagine if it were somebody Black who worked at the university where they could get this pushback, that they would be supportive, be like, no, you're doing this on your personal time. It's not an issue. I got to bring that up because, like I said, we kind of pick and choose. I understand where you're coming from, but these are the realities, unfortunately, that we're faced with, right? Like, okay, I'm going to do it. And unfortunately, not saying it's right, but decorum does play a role. And this is why, you have employers now who are going on our social media pages and exploring to see what can they find. And it's unfortunate that they're basing, I guess, our character from a very curated space. I mean, it kind of can reveal some things, maybe not. Some of it could be a complete facade. But unfortunately, this is just the world that we live in, that what you put out on the internet can affect you in various ways, whether we agree with it or not. And that's just the point I'm making. I'm not necessarily agreeing with the decision they made, because again, I feel like I don't have enough information to be like, okay, I see why y'all did that. We're kind of grazing over it here. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but they got a lawsuit coming. I'm pretty sure he's gonna sue them. Wrongful termination suit coming right up.
Oh yeah. Especially if they didn't talk to him about what policies that he actually violated. If it's just a policy of, it's bad morality. And I'm not saying that he had to put it out there, but if I was him, I would be like, how is it bad on a moral front that I'm actually enjoying myself with my wife?
Yeah. So perhaps now the argument is not about whether this was right or wrong. The argument is, are they justified?
Well, that's how it's going to be contextualized, though. That's how it's going to be contextualized. In the university's eyes, it's going to be contextualized as you're wrong because it's not the representation. Again, and this is, if you think about it, it's very oppressive, because it's like you're wrong for what? For just doing what married people do?
He's been putting out the videos for years. He probably got an OnlyFans too, child. I'm sure
he has a whole show. He actually has a whole show.
Some revenue from this. He'll be fine.
They actually.
I'm just saying.
Again, at the beginning of this discussion, somebody quote unquote discovered this. I would be checking on the person that discovered this, doing an investigation.
Yeah, they saw his whole face and they were like, "Oh yeah."
I bet you. How much you want to bet it was a student? No, it was probably. You know what? No, it wasn't no student. No, this ain't no student. This was an adult that was mad about their own marital life. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm just saying,
they'd be like, "Oh, that's Joe."
University, then maybe they would have walked on eggshells with this one, right? But if a student brought it to their attention, they were probably like, "Oh shit, yeah, we."
Nah. It was an adult. It was an adult, and they were mad at Joe, and they were like, "Oh, Joe, okay, Joe." It's probably one of his colleagues.
He got that revenue coming in. He's gonna be all right. Well,
Hey, look.
I'm interested to see how this turns out for him.
Hey, Coretta, can you imagine the last day when he had to pack up the box? Like, when everybody looking at him like, Joe, you're leaving, Joe? He had to pack up the box or something. He'd be like, I hope you, okay, see you later, Joe Blow. I mean, Joe Gow.
I'm gonna just leave it there.
I'm gonna just leave it right there. But he does have a show. That's what the team has shared with me, that he does actually have a show. Yeah, he has a show. He said that they have a show called Sexy Healthy Cooking, where they interview performers and humanize them in ways that they wouldn't get in their own work. They're pleased with the feedback. So he's a guy that just loves to put himself on display. He's like an exhibitionist, him and his wife.
This is just the most amusing story.
This is the most amusing story of 2023. Look, I got to take a quick pause, y'all. We're going to move off this story. Let's talk history as we close out the conversation. Stay with us. It's the culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I am dying from y'all. We're gonna have to move on. Let me bring in Corinna. Corinna, this is the final Friday. This is the last show of the year. I'm trying to move. I don't even know why I set it up for us to talk about that story before. I don't know what I was thinking.
What
now? Let's talk Black history.
Yeah, that's the premise. We're gonna talk about the porn and then talk about history. But okay.
Talk about Black history. Let's shift gears. Let's shift gears a little bit, y'all. Culture. I hope y'all enjoying this conversation, man. This is wild. All right. Anyway, as we close out 2023, and this is the last Friday of the year, and of course, we're just a few days into the Kwanzaa celebration of 2023. I thought about this story, and I saw this story, and I've been wanting to talk about this, where in South Carolina, they're getting their only civil rights museum, thanks to famed photographer Cecil Williams. His photography will actually be serving as the basis of a civil rights museum marking how Black Americans fought against segregation and discrimination in the state. And this is in Orangeburg, South Carolina. So I'm gonna lean on my sister Lana, who I know has probably been down in Orangeburg, or she probably knows somebody in Orangeburg. Because Lana knows, she know that southern part of the country. But it's the first civil rights museum that this part of that South Carolina has. And they're going to use his photos and all of his work. He has millions of photos. They're going to be digitized and categorized. And it's going to be the basis of a museum. So it's going to teach about segregation and discrimination. And he's 85 years old, Corinna. Cecil Williams, photographer, 85 years old. He turned 85 last month. And he said, images can be very powerful storytelling, and the struggle to get the rights we were due under the United States Constitution is a very powerful story. Let's give Mr. Cecil Williams, let's give him a horn or something, a little hand clap, because his advocacy to get something. There we go. He also said this. He said, we talk about superheroes like Superman or the Black Panther, but I wish young people would realize there are superheroes in their neighborhoods who fought injustice every day. Come on, Mr. Williams.
That's so
Come on, Mr. Williams. Hey, look, Lise and team, let's pull up a picture of Mr. Cecil Williams when y'all get a chance so that the people can see what our brothers looks like. So he realized back in 2019, him and his wife, that there was no museum focused on civil rights in South Carolina and like any other state. So they converted an old house and darkroom in a residential neighborhood in Orangeburg into the Cecil Williams, South Carolina Civil Rights Museum. He created the exhibitions. He partitioned off the rooms himself. It had 25,000 visitors with little marketing, with little, and that's Mr. Williams right there, y'all. And let's show a picture of, there we go.
Yeah.
So this story right here, I think, Corinna, really, it really kind of brings home the ideas of Kwanzaa, like today's cooperative economics, which this is about, right? But also it's about self-determination. It's about pulling your resources together. And I think that for a lot of us, some of us, well, I'm not gonna say a lot of us, I would say some of us truly believe that we don't have power, that the power is always gonna have to be given to us instead of coming from us. And I think that this is a great story to show that if you just decide enough is enough, and we talk about this, here's a man who is at 85 years old, still had the spirit, the passion to say, you know what, let's change the world. Let's do something different. At 85 years old, he could have been sitting and watching, and he did all of his photography work. Him and his wife could have just been taking a rest. But at 85 years old, they're still advocating and pushing forward to make sure that there is something that can be passed on to the next generation from this culture. I think this is absolutely amazing. What you take, Corinne? Talk to me.
It is amazing. And I love the fact that him and his wife took the initiative to say, we need to create a museum, right? And I think it even makes it more sacred that they decided to use like an old home, right? And instead of maybe just constructing a new building, but now all of his photography, art, all of his work throughout the years will be on display for everyone to see. Right. And, there used to be a saying, pictures worth 1,000 words. I could only imagine the history that will be displayed in those images. And for a lot of people right there in South Carolina who, born and raised, will get to see some of their history and their roots there in their home state. So, yeah, I think this is amazing. I hope that we kind of see maybe some more things like this. People who have photographs and artifacts to display those works, because we've kind of moved away from like those traditions, right, Farajii? Like now you could take a picture with your phone, but you'll get to see some of the actual print work that he has to in a dark room and have on display. Like, we don't have that anymore where we're flipping through the photo albums. Everything's kind of, digital. But yeah, that'll be something I could imagine amazing to see. So yeah, I think it's very important. Pictures, like I said, are worth 1,000 words, and there's so much, conversation that just by looking at an image, right, that you can pull from and discuss. So yeah,
absolutely. Corinna, Alana checked in, and she made this point. She said Orangeburg is one halfway. I told you. I know Lana. She know the South, man. She said Orangeburg is a one halfway between Columbia and Charleston. Imagine the trail of tears that location has seen, blood, sweat, and tears that location has seen. She said, I'm sure he had some amazing content. I can't wait to attend. Yeah. And this is really big. He displays the Bible of the Reverend Joseph Delane, one of the plaintiffs in the Briggs versus Elliott, who organized Black parents to fight their local school district over its grossly unequal schools. He also is showing Delane's long gun. So he got this. So Pastor Delane had a Bible and a gun. This is how the South raised him. Long gun, which he used to protect himself and his family when racists came to attack them one night. So he has that. He said, Mr. Williams said, sometimes in history being first matters, and this is one time when it should have mattered. So he is establishing this. So in the next year or so, according to the report, Mr. Williams hopes to move his museum into a building 3 times larger in downtown Orangeburg with full-time staff. And it's part of a $23 million federal grant to revitalize Railroad Corner in Orangeburg as a gateway to the city that is nearly 3/4 Black with 2 neighboring historically Black universities. And it's the culmination of years of trying to get support from anyone who will listen. Come on, let's give another horn for Mr. Williams, man. Look, let me tell you this.
And imagine how many photographs he has. Oh my gosh, thousands of pictures that he's going to need to eventually construct a larger building, a larger facility to house all of this work.
Absolutely. Here's the final note he said. He said, we're running out of time, Corinna. He said, I'm running out of time. He said, I have tried for 4 or 5 decades to make an impact, to make our history known. 4 to 5 decades, 40 to 50 years?
A long time.
And you are still, see, this is what we're talking about when we say staying committed. Yeah. He has found his lane, and he had to stay in his lane, keep advocating, keep pushing, keep speaking up, right? Until it happened. Then he decided, I'm going to put something together for myself. And then we're going to make it big. 25,000 people come out to see him with no marketing, little to no marketing. And then
I think it's also taking into consideration too, given that we see all the attempts to strip our history and water it down and act like it doesn't exist. He sees the urgency, especially in now, to kind of pass the baton to the younger generation, making sure we know our history, we know who we are, so that we can actually create the world we want to see and build a future for ourselves, right? So I would imagine that has that's a lot of the reason also too behind this, so that our history is not erased. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Photographs, and he wants to make sure, especially our young people, know it and cherish it and value it. So
that is absolutely. So big shout out to Mr. Cecil Williams, 85 years old. Big shout out to his wife. They've taken on the great responsibility of educating South Carolinians about this history in Orangeburg, South Carolina, the only civil rights museum in the state. And now they're finally getting some credit in establishing this museum. And more importantly, they're finally getting the resources and the money from the state to establish this. So God willing, you folks will start to be able to see this Civil Rights Museum. And I'm sure they're going to name it after him, the Cecil Williams Civil Rights Museum in South Carolina. But what a great way to end 2023, Corinna. They're talking about the great determination that, and I think the big lesson I gleaned from this story is the fact that regardless of what's happening, regardless of who is coming after you, that you got to stay focused. And then guess what? God is going to make a way for you. God is going to make a way for you as long as you stay consistent in your efforts to do what's right. Guess what? You will be rewarded greatly in consistency. So here's a man who has done 40 to 50 years of advocacy and work. And he's finally in his what they say, his twilight years, starting to see it come into fruition.
Yeah.
Well done, Mr. Williams. Absolutely well done. Absolutely. All right, Corinna, our time has been very well spent. Thank you so much. I hope you have a safe and prosperous transition into the new year. God willing, we will reconnect with you next year in 2020. What's your resolution? What's the resolution you got real quick, Corinna? What you want to work on for yourself?
To be consistent and persevere. You know, despite trials and tribulations that we can't avoid, just to stay focused on the goal, no matter what, you know?
That's it.
I think that's all we can do. But thank you for a great year.
Fantastic year.
I look forward for more to come in 2024.
Absolutely. And I think my resolution would is to be more intentional. Be more intentional. I feel like that once you set your intention, you know what I mean? It opens the door and the conversation for everything else. So just to be more intentional. So God willing, we'll be able to do that next year. Crew, I cannot thank y'all enough. Let's thank the crew, y'all. Let's thank the crew
yes,
for their consistency, their support. It's been a fantastic 2023. God willing, we're going to go into something together. But let's all I know there's going to be a lot of celebration and everything, but something that I heard the minister say one time, he was like, as you talking about transitioning into the new year, that you take the time to truly reflect, to truly think over all that has happened. And that I know that some churches do it, others don't. But make sure that y'all say a prayer. Prayer for those who are here, prayers for those that we lost over the year, and that their family finds some peace and healing. But this is a very critical time, as much as it's a joyous time for the things that we're doing. We're also saying that this is a time of great darkness and uncertainty in this country, especially for Black people in this country. So let's hope and pray that we get through this transition, not just of this calendar year, but we get through the next year together, whole, in the same space of mind, and that we truly, truly usher in a movement of peace and understanding and knowledge. So I thank y'all so much for y'all support. Thank you, Corinna. I truly appreciate you for being so good for the culture.
Peace,
right.
2024. Oh,
absolutely. Stay woke. Stay woke. All right, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Big shout out to the big guy, Big Brother Roland Martin, for once again providing the space and the place for us to have these conversations here on the Black Star Network. I thank y'all for so much for all of that y'all have done for us here on the Black Star Network, and particularly on the culture, the support, and everything. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are truly a community here, folks, a family here. It's been an amazing journey this year. So God willing, we will talk on Monday. Stay tuned. Up next, 6 p.m. Eastern Time is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. And God willing, we will see each other on Tuesday. That's right, on Tuesday for another live show right here of the culture, right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app and please support us as we continue to put out another fantastic year of great content and information for Black America. Talk to you soon. Peace.